I'm the managing partner here at Elevate Realty. I'm a seasoned real estate agent, been practicing as a real estate agent for the last 10 years. Been investing in real estate for the past 15 years here in the GTA. I'm an occasional barista and father of 3. Came by accident, actually. At the time, I started as an investor and I was investing in real estate and working with various agents. I just didn't feel I had the support that I was looking for to make smart investments, make well-informed investments. An opportunity came up to become a real estate agent and to help friends buy investment properties. And ultimately, what came out of that is building out an entire ecosystem of investment tools, services that allowed investors to make smarter, more well-informed decisions. And that's what Elevate Realty is all about. It was an evolution, and Elevate Realty as a brokerage is a full-service real estate investment brokerage that caters towards investors that are looking at buying real estate in Toronto. We're uniquely positioned in the GTA to provide a really bespoke service to investors who are looking at building, growing, and scaling a real estate portfolio. We have the background both in the knowledge to buy smart investment properties that will allow for value add, and then can inform our clients to take that property to bring it to a point where you can exit on the value and continue to acquire properties. That process of helping them, advising them to grow their real estate has allowed them to scale and continue to build a portfolio of properties here in the GTA. We also can advise on things like laneway houses because we built them ourselves, and large-scale construction. So we're really well-versed in the investment landscape and the changing investment landscape here in the GTA to assist them to establish and grow their portfolio. We are all investors. Every one of the agents on our team own investment properties, and I am proud to say everyone actually started as a property manager. So we've dealt with all the issues that you would typically deal with on a day-to-day basis managing investment properties and understand that so we can advise from a point of experience and not from a point where you're just marketing that asset. Oftentimes, investors come in and we talk cash flows, and cash flows are generally the first thing that you're interested in because you want to make sure that you're solvent ultimately, that you can pay the bills at the end of the month, that you're going to be able to make the mortgage payments. So I would say early stage investors that are buying their first, second, and third property, typically are more cash flow oriented investors. Investors that are looking for appreciation or value add are more seasoned investors. So they typically would have had a cash flowing portfolio that they can fall back on, and they're looking at properties now where they can do a lot of work and be okay with actually not collecting rent in the short medium term to create a lot of value at the back end and exit on that value quickly to reinvest those funds. Most investors just look at cap rates and look at yields and look at returns. That is probably 50% of the things that you should be looking at when you're making investments. When you're looking at investing property, all the qualitative pieces are important as well. So whether or not the property is parking, whether the property is on a main street or a side street, looking at the basement heights, does it have a separate entrance? All these qualitative aspects do add a substantial value potentially to the property in the long run. Things like development potential, can we build a garden suite? Can we build a laneway house? Potentially a conversion into a fourplex? Do we have the lot size and the setback requirements to facilitate further development on the site? Are all certain nuances that are not going to show up on a P&L that would be important for an investor to understand as they're building their investment portfolio. You know, the question really goes back to them and like, how do you know it's the best deal on the market? Because in fact, most people wouldn't know. What I would also say to them on that front is, you're never going to buy the best deal on the market. There's only one best deal on the market. What does that deal look like, and are you going to be quick enough to move on it? Really, from my perspective as a seasoned investor, I'm looking at buying the top 5% of the deals actively on the market at any given point in time. So you're not looking back 2 years from now and comparing sale prices and saying, hey, I want to buy a deal that looked like that 2 years ago. You're looking at what's existing stock available and trying to buy the best 2 to 5% of the deals that are on the market, both from a cash flow and a value creation point of view. And to do that, really, we're talking about having a good understanding of how real estate works. So a lot of learning, a lot of action, a lot of getting out, seeing properties so that you're well informed, and when the opportunity comes up, you're able to move very quickly to acquire the property. For renovations, I would say the key thing is you can plan as much as you want, but you really know what you're dealing in once you break down a wall. So being nimble is really important, being flexible and being aware that with the properties that we deal with in Toronto, they're century-old homes. As soon as you open up a wall, you're gonna find a completely different set of variables that you wouldn't have had planned up front that you'll need to deal with. So I would say to early stage investors, try not to take on large renovations because the risk is there. For seasoned investors, expect there to be change. Once you open up a wall, you're going to find some surprises. The key is to deal with it calmly, address it, and move forward. I mean, for me, a good example, I was working on a property and we took down a plaster wall, and it turned out that there was newspapers from World War II as insulation within the walls. And that was a really interesting find. I mean, like, we kind of browsed the newspapers and the headlines back in, 1940 something it was. You never know what you're gonna find when you open up a wall. So that's my advice to investors is don't take on more than you can chew.
Did you keep the newspaper?
It disintegrated as soon as I lifted it up. So it just fell apart. I honestly think the best resource is to look at our YouTube page. Samantha has some amazing content there, and you'll learn a lot and relevant information because every jurisdiction is so different. Every neighborhood is so different on what you can do and what the yields are. So if you're looking at Toronto real estate, I would look to our YouTube channels to get information there. But for me, if you ask me some books that I think, they're not necessarily real estate books, they're really books that are focused on action, on execution, being very intentional with what you're looking at. 3 books I would recommend are Atomic Habit by James Clear, another one, Principles by Ray Dalio. The third one is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. All 3 of these books really drive at action. They drive at making decisions, being intentional with the efforts, and then being resilient. So nothing's gonna happen overnight. Real estate is one of those businesses that actually take a long period of time for you to really experience and see the gains. And all of these talk about building habits, talk about resiliency, talk about staying true to fundamentals as you're growing your portfolio. So much has changed in real estate to keep me excited. For the first 10 years of working in real estate, largely it was the same. You couldn't do a lot. You'd work within the building envelope to improve these units. But more recently, in the last 2 to 3 years, with all the policy changes around laneway houses and multiplex developments, it's completely shifted the landscape of the work that we do today. And we're seeing a huge influx of investors that are looking at low-rise as a real means to create wealth and to build their portfolios. So a lot of redevelopment and so forth. So for me, that's super exciting. Seeing that happen in-house, all of our agents and a lot of our property managers are investors as well. So we co-invest, we buy properties together, and being able to collaborate and work on deals and to build properties and so forth. It's a very dynamic space right now with all the recent changes and policy changes. It does keep me going. It's changed my life, it's changed the lives of a lot of people around me, created a lot of financial flexibility and financial freedom. It's opened the doors to a lot of different things, and it's something that I would certainly recommend, but it wasn't easy in the beginning. It's actually a lot harder in the beginning buying your first property, your second property, your third property versus actually growing a portfolio when you're up to 7, 8, 9 properties and so forth. So it's completely unlocked a different experience for myself as an entrepreneur and growing a team, but also within the day-to-day life of having a family and sort of going through that process as well. Relationships is everything. You can't do it all. You've got to be able to build really meaningful, authentic relationships. And what we're lucky to accomplish here at Elevate is not only do we have those relationships with our clients, but internally within our team, it is a very tight culture and a tight team where everyone's supporting one another. Everyone knows their strengths, their weaknesses, and they're able to really back each other up. And I think that uniquely has created that flexibility for not only myself, but a lot of the individuals on the team to rely on one another, to be able to scale and grow together as a unit versus looking at it from a company perspective. As you evolve in real estate, you realize that you don't have all the answers. And one of the things is connecting with all the different professionals that you'll need to facilitate deals, whether it's architects, it's engineers, it's planners, mortgage lenders, so forth. All of these individuals have a part to play in the process in terms of building a portfolio. And as you're actually creating value and looking at more complex projects, the more and more that you're involving different stakeholders to facilitate the planning process of looking at a deal and creating value on the property. I mean, there isn't one roadmap for everyone, but what I would say is a good starting point is surround yourself with people that are interested in investing in real estate. You guys will find that there's so many different elements of investing. What's right for you might not be right for someone else, so you're going to be learning from a lot of different people. So surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals is step number one, and then really from there starting to build the knowledge from ground up by seeing properties, hitting the ground, looking at properties, understanding what factors are important in making this decision so that you'll know when the moment's there. I would also add that typically as a new investor, thinking more closely about being cash flow positive on the asset would be something that would be a priority versus looking at something that has a speculative valuation at the end, a lot of value creation where you're putting a lot of capital. The reason I say that is twofold. To really establish and grow a portfolio, you're going to, number one, need to make sure that you're going to be solvent, but to really grow that portfolio, your properties need to be able to service themselves, to be able to debt service. So the income needs to be sufficient to cover off the debt so that you can buy your next property. Banks are looking for that to be able to scale and grow a portfolio. In the earlier stages, you do want to make sure that your cash flows are there. Not be able to cover your cash flows with real estate and that stress really burdening you isn't something that I would recommend an early stage investor to take on. You can find me at Elevate Realty. CA is our Instagram handle. You'll be able to reach out to myself and Samantha, who's really navigating our marketing channels there, and we'll take it from there. Yeah.